In this session, we're going to walk through a lab example of configuring administrative distance on Arista switches. As we discussed in the administrative distance overview session, like many other vendors, Arista provides an administrative distance feature as a way to manipulate our IP routing tables. Arista's EOS, Extensible Operating System, provides default administrative distance assignments, and Arista provides options to change the default administrative distance values. For example, in the case of OSPF v2, we can change the AD of inter-area routes from 110 to 109 by typing config, enter, router OSPF1, enter, and then distance OSPF inter-area 109 and hit enter. One way to verify the change is to issue the command show run section OSPF and hit enter. And in the output of our OSPF configuration, we can see the distance OSPF inter-area 109 configuration change. Let's create a quick test where the intent is to have a particular static route preferred over a route learned via OSPF external type 2. I have a lab of 4 switches labeled simply as S1, S2, S3, and S4. In this example, we're going to play around with switch 1's view of how to reach switch 2's loopback interface with an IP of 2.2.2.2/32. Switch 1 has a direct link to switch 2 via Ethernet 1 on both switches. Right now, all of the switches have OSPF running and see each other on the direct links. Here's a view of the OSPF neighbors on S1. Show IP OSPF neighbor, enter. And we can see that switch 1 has 2 OSPF neighbors, one out its Ethernet 1 interface, which is our switch 2, and one out its Ethernet 2 interface, which is switch 3. Here's a view of the topology from S1's routing table. Show IP route, enter. We can see that switch 1 knows about switch 2's loopback interface. That network, 2.2.2.2/32, is known via OSPF, and specifically, it's an OSPF external type 2 route. In the output, we can see that network 2.2.2.2/32 is reachable via Ethernet 1, and it has an administrative distance of 110. On switch 1, let's configure a static route to the loopback of switch 2 via Ethernet 1, where the next hop IP address is 172.16.200.2. And we're going to add an inflated administrative distance of 250. The valid range for administrative distance configuration is 1 through 255. So we'll type config and hit enter, and then IP space route space 2.2.2.2/32 space. We'll put in the next hop IP of 172.16.200.2, an administrative distance of 250. I like to name my routes just so that they stand out easily in the output of show run. So I'm going to name this test-ad and hit enter. We can verify our configuration change by issuing the command show run pipe include IP route and hit enter. And in that output, we can see our new static route for 2.2.2.2/32 with the next hop of 172.16.200.2 and an administrative distance assignment of 250. Let's look at the routing table of switch 1 to see if anything has changed. Show IP route, or more specifically, we can issue a show IP route 2.2.2.2 and hit enter. Notice that we're still learning that route 2.2.2.2/32 via OSPF, an administrative distance of 110. That's because the administrative distance we assign this new static route is 250, which is higher than the default administrative distance of OSPF's 110. Remember our decision order. Longest prefix wins. If the prefix length matches, then we compare how we learn the route, leveraging administrative distance. and that the lower administrative distance wins. So it makes perfect sense that we're still using the OSPF learned route. Now, let's rewrite our static route, and this time use an administrative distance that is lower than OSPF's default of 110. First, let's remove this existing static route that we added that has an AD of 250. So we can up arrow to where we entered that command. We can type Control A to get to the beginning of the line, insert a no, and type enter to remove it. And up arrow again to where we had entered that command, and then we can use a left arrow to move over to where 250 is. Delete the 250, in its place we'll put 109 and hit enter. Always verify your configuration. Now we'll issue a show run pipe include IP route to verify that our change took. And we can see our static route for 2.2.2.2/32 with the next hop of 172.16.200.2 now has an AD of 109. Now let's check to see if our routing table was updated. Let's issue a show IP route, or again, more specifically, we can issue a show IP route 2.2.2.2 and hit enter. And now in the output, we can see we are using the static route. It has an administrative distance of 109, and we are using the 172.16.200.2. Now let's try another change. Let's change the administrative distance of all OSPF external routes. If we reissue the command show IP route and hit enter, and take a look specifically at our OSPF external routes as they are now, we can see in the output that all of our OSPF E2 routes have an AD of 110. To change the administrative distance assigned to all OSPF external routes, we'll use the command in configuration mode router OSPF1 enter distance OSPF space external space, and let's make that 108 and hit enter. And again, always verify your change. Verify, verify, verify. We can do that with a show run section OSPF and hit enter. And we can see our distance OSPF external 108 is in our running configuration. Now, if we reissue the command show IP route, we can see all of our OSPF external routes now have an administrative distance of 108. And we can see that our other OSPF routes, for example, the inters or intras, are all still set with the default of 110.